Hi class, I hope everybody's having a great day and everybody's had a great weekend and also a great start to 2025. My name is Blake Rouse. I'm from Milton, Georgia, and I came down to Florida to play lacrosse at Palm Beach Atlantic University, but I have ended up transferring to FAU where this is my last semester and I'm a senior. Some things that I hope to learn in this class, and especially after seeing the cutting the clutter assignment, is I really hope to get my business speaking a lot better, and I hope to be able to be more fluent with different business opportunities and be able to speak the language of multiple different people in a business setting. I'll be sharing some essential rules and skills from cutting the clutter worksheet. These tips will help us write more consciously and effectively. The first rule that I'm going to be using is avoiding starting independent clauses with there is or there are. It doesn't help with writing, and especially when you're doing cutting the clutter, you want the information to be as short and concise as possible. Secondly, eliminate redundant modifiers and adjectives. These are just unnecessary words that are not needed inside the presentation and can just be cut out. Thirdly, we want to replace words, phrases with conscious alternatives. Instead of taking this big word, we want to make a smaller word that is more concise for the viewer to understand the point faster. Another thing that we would like to do is avoid passive voice where possible. And lastly is cut unnecessary qualifiers and intensifiers like very or really. The reader will get the point without having to use these adjectives. The reasoning for the response is learning to cut the clutter in our writing is crucial because it improves readability, professionalism, and clarity, especially in an academic and professional setting. Secondly, on this assignment, we were supposed to write a list out of things to follow and avoid when writing to cut clutter. One thing to avoid is using there is, there are, like I said earlier. Instead of saying there is a new assignment next week, the alternative would be a new assignment is due next week. That's a lot shorter and quicker. One thing that I learned from this is that starting with there is creates unnecessary wordiness. By removing it, the sentence becomes more direct and impactful. Secondly, what we would like to do is eliminate redundant modifiers. Another example of this is instead of absolutely essential, just say essential. Both mean the same thing, and it also helps cut clutter. What I learned from this is many modifiers are redundant and don't add value. Cutting them makes writing sharper. The third part of this assignment that we were tasked to do is we were supposed to replace wordy phrases. One example that I wrote down of a wordy phrase that we can get rid of is replace due to the fact with because. What I learned is wordy phrases can confuse readers. Replacing them simplifies the message and makes it clearer. Some creative teaching idea that it can help with replacing wordy phrases is use a before and after comparison slide showing a word count reduction. If I were to give an assignment to the class, I would maybe give a 250 word article and encourage my classmates to shorten this essay and to maybe making it 175 words by avoiding all clutter. I think maybe one assignment a week doing this would help drastically with cutting the clutter, and it basically forces students to minimize their writing by reaching a certain word count. That's just one thing that I would personally do. And then maybe secondly is we can have a synonym worksheet, which maybe we can have a worksheet where all big words and we can use maybe synonym words that are basically implying and encouraging the cut the clutter method. The fourth step in this assignment that we were tasked this week is avoiding passive voices. Passive voices really doesn't help with the cutting the clutter. You really want to take the assertiveness when you're talking and you would like to speak directly to somebody rather than taking the passive approach. It doesn't really work. An example of this might be instead of the report was written by John, you would say John wrote the report. It's a lot more assertive, it's a lot more dominant, and it's not passive. When you're trying to grab the attention of a room, you want to be the dominant person. You would like to be the person that is sitting up tall and talking and projecting your voice. Taking the passive approach shows as a weaker and comes off as you're less intelligent. Another rule in the cutter breaking process is cut unnecessary qualifiers. Cutting unnecessary qualifiers helps sharpen your wording and will make it obviously easier for the reader to read. An example of this was, instead of "I was very happy," just say "I was happy." The point gets across with pretty much everything. Just cut all adjectives out. It really does not help. Now I'm going to start addressing some verbal skills and nonverbal skills that I would suggest using during the clutter clutting process. Some verbal skills that I would use are: use clear, enthusiastic, and deliberate speech. Avoid fillers like or I personally struggle with this, and I'm trying my best to get better at it, but it's an everyday process. Some nonverbal skills that I would say are: maintain good posture, use appropriate hand gestures, and make eye contact with the camera. This is something that I'm working on, but I don't struggle with terribly. During this thing, I try to use as much hand gestures as possible. I've tried to remain a solid frame and good posture, and making eye contact with the camera just helps to show that you're more educated on the topic. There are many reasons why cutting the clutter is so important. What I would say the most important reason is it improves communication, making your writing more professional and easier to understand. One of the new rules that surprised me with cutting the clutter was eliminating redundant modifiers to avoid "there is," "there are" were eye-opening for me. I hadn't realized how often I used them. I also didn't realize how often I use or seeing that this is my third or fourth time trying to record this video. Thank you very much, guys. Again, my name is Blake. I'm from Georgia, and now I live here down in South Florida. I live in West Palm Beach, so it's not as close to Boca as I would like, but I'm trying to graduate as quickly as possible and would like to use these business skills that I've learned into the real world. So thank you very much. Have a good day.